Hi, this is Mike with AskTractorMike.com. When you're doing your annual service work and you're kind of following your tractor's owner's manual, you're doing things like changing the oil and filter, maybe the fuel filter, you're getting the dirt out of the air filter or maybe replacing it, you're blowing the crud out of the radiator, checking your radiator level, and maybe it's time to change hydraulic oil and the oil filter there. Those are the main things, and the operator's manual talks a lot about these things, and rightly so. But there's three things that I do every year, don't take much time, that I really think are important, and they're not really that prevalent in the owner's manual. And I'm going to go over those three today. Before I do, I want to thank my sponsor. I'm sponsored today by WD-40. They've been a supporter of my channel for a couple of years now. And I'm a big supporter of WD-40. It's a product I've used the better part of my life. We always had WD-40 on the farm, and we used it often. And this new can, it's called the Easy Reach can. It's got a flexible straw on the end where you can get it in really tight places and reduce your overspray. And if you fold it down, it works like the old style WD-40 with a fan spray. So I really like this Easy Reach. I keep a can of it around all the time. Now, there's another product I hope I don't have to use today. It's called Rust Release Penetrant. It's WD-40 Specialist Rust Release Penetrant. And if you don't use this on a regular basis, which I've got to show today, you'll end up having to use this. And this stuff is great if you have an area that you needed to lubricate and you didn't get it, and maybe the tractor's set outside and rusted up. You can spray some of this on the rusted area and it'll eat that rust away, and then you can work it free and then use this stuff on it. But I like both products. This one right here you don't want to have to use, but if you need it, it's really a great product. So anyway, today I'm going to talk about these three things you need to do at your annual service, and they won't take that long. And the first one involves my sponsor, WD-40. I take a can of WD-40 and I start at the front of the tractor and go to the back, and there's some areas that if you'll lubricate them early, it'll make your job with the tractor a lot easier the rest of the year. The first one is on the quick attach on the front of your loader. I change from pallet forks to a bucket and back often in a year, and there's lots of moving parts in that quick attach. And some of those quick attaches have grease zerks, and if they do, fill them with grease. But there are still moving parts that need lubrication that don't take grease. And so I'm going to squirt all the moving parts I can with WD-40, and you can tell an immediate difference in how easy the levers go up and down, and it'll make a world of difference when you're trying to hook up. I've watched guys many times that didn't do this, and they end up with really, really tight levers, and they'll go out and get a long pipe and force it into place, and a little bit of WD-40, and they might have prevented bending a lever or breaking something inside the mechanism. Next thing I'm going to do with the WD-40 is go up to the operator's area. Especially if your tractor's stored outside, the seat may be stuck in place. And I like to keep that seat where it goes back and forth, because once in a great while, one of my kids wants to do something on a tractor. My wife does a few chores on the tractor, and we're all different sizes, so we like to move our seat a little bit. So I'm going to spray that seat. In this tractor, the seat was stuck. It took a lot of work to get that seat to where it moved, but WD-40 under those seat rails and in the release mechanism makes a world of difference. While we're on the subject of the seat, on a lot of tractors there's a spring or a set of springs somewhere on the seat mechanism that adjusts for the weight of the operator. And if you don't adjust those much, they can freeze up. So if you can get that WD-40 into the threads of the rod. Now on some tractors the crank for that is down between your ankles, and on this tractor it's on the back of the seat. So I'm going to spray WD-40 back in there to loosen that up, so when we change operators, they can adjust it for their weight. Moving to the back of the tractor, I always like to keep the hitch parts sprayed with WD-40. This particular tractor has Pat's Easy Hitch on the back of it, so the balls are underneath that. But if I didn't have that system, I would definitely spray some WD-40 in the lower link balls. and make sure they're moving around freely. The stabilizers on this tractor have threads on them, and I'm going to spray the threads with WD-40 and move both the stabilizer mechanism and the jam nut in and out so that all flows freely. And then I'm going to spray some WD-40 down in my top link to make sure it moves in and out. And then the balls on it, I'm going to make sure that they move around freely. And the pins that go through it too. On hitch mechanisms, I really like to put a lot of WD-40 on them and keep them free because that sure makes hooking and unhooking implements a lot easier on down the road. The second thing I'm going to talk about today that I think is really important is tire inflation. And I've got a little different opinion if you look on the side of the back tires how much pressure to put in them, I think they usually overrate how much to go in there. I usually like to keep between 12 and 15 pounds of pressure in my back tires. And that's not a lot of air, but that gives you a nice ride and good wear. On a lot of, especially compact tractors, for some reason, I think dealers and the factory way overfill the tires. And if you look at the back tires on a lot of compact tractors, you'll see a wear pattern, kind of a dust ring around the center where they're riding on the road, and they're way overinflated. They're not getting the full footprint on the road. So on your back tires, when you check the inflation, you may need to actually let some air out of them. But set them between 12 and 15 pounds. Now on the front tires, especially if I've got a loader, I'm going to keep them near the maximum recommended. And on this particular tractor, they recommend 28 pounds maximum in the front tires, and I'm going to put 28 pounds in there because the tractor has a loader. Now if you don't have a loader and you want a little better ride, you might go to the minimum end of the range. But if you got a loader, keep it at the maximum end of the range on the front tires and low pressure on the back tires. And tire wear will be even at that point, and you won't be replacing tires often. The last thing I'm going to talk about today is probably the most important, and that is check your torque settings. Get your owner's manual and find out what your torque settings are, and there's really 4 or 5 areas you need to look at. The first one is your tires and wheels. Your lug nuts, they need to be torqued annually. A tractor has a lot of vibration, and those lug nuts can work loose over time, or lug bolts, whatever you have. And so get out of the owner's manual how the torque that they need, and get you a good torque wrench like this one, and check the bolts on the front wheels and the back wheels. And while you're at the back wheels, and these are tough to get to, but if you have a rim that connects to a hub with bolts, you need to check the torque on them. And I was a little bit shocked. I had one that was really loose on this tractor. So I'm glad I'm checking it. Whoa! The next thing you want to check is your drawbar bolts. And most of us don't use our drawbars much. We use 3-point, but you don't want it falling off either. Next thing you want to check is your roll bar bolts. That's protecting your life right there in an event of a rollover, so you want to check those bolts and make sure they're tight. And finally today, check your loader bolts. You absolutely, and these are the ones of all of these that probably fail the most. The loader has a lot of vibration, it takes a lot of stress. If you have 1 or 2 loose bolts and you break one off, it's an expensive repair that you don't want. I appreciate you watching my video today. Here's a couple more videos if you're interested in service-related items on tractors that you probably ought to watch. And if you'd like to subscribe to my YouTube channel, I'd be honored. Click the mic face icon up in the corner and make sure you check the bell icon so you get notified when I post new videos. Thanks for watching.